Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Fortitude Fix. I hope you're well. My name is DaShanna, and in today's video, I am just giving y'all a little bit of an update, and I'm gonna be answering some of the most asked questions that I get related to the content here on my channel. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about me, my family, my journey, and where you can get an amazing mug, go ahead and just keep on watching. Okay. All right, well, cheers to the weekend. Okay, so couple of announcements before I get into the meat of this video. One is that I launched my podcast. I am so excited. This has been years and years in the making. So I want you to know that you can find the Fortitude Podcast anywhere that you find your podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. Go ahead and rate the podcast, download it, and listen and enjoy. The second thing I wanted to let you all know is that my Etsy shop is always down in the description below. So you will find the link to my podcast, you'll find the link to my Etsy shop where you can get this mug and others for this holiday season and beyond down in my Etsy shop. So I will leave that linked as well. Okay, so some of you may be wondering, DaShanna, what is it that you're drinking? Great question. You know, we all grown, okay? But it is some champagne. It's some champagne. I'm just gonna be honest with you, you know? And others might be thinking, DaShanna, why are you drinking it out of a mug? Well, one, I think this is the cutest mug ever, but also I have little children and I just need some stuff that's a little bit durable, okay? I do have my champagne flutes, but for now, we're sticking to that thick ceramic, okay? The link is always down below in all of my videos. It's etsy.com/shop/TheFortitudeFix, and you will find everything that I have to offer. I just appreciate every single one of you for all of your support. Here in the last year or so, my consistency has been a little off here on the channel, but I appreciate all of you who stick around, all of you who watch all of my uploads, and those of you who are joining the fam. Like, you all are still subscribing to my channel, and I appreciate every single one of you. So thank you so much for being here. I wouldn't be in this space without y'all, so I am wholeheartedly, like, absolutely adore every single one of you. Thank you for all of your support throughout the years. Sorry, someone just like looked through my window and like pointed at my front door. I don't like that. Okay, let's get into some updates. So, as you all know, I really started to become serious on my channel, and my channel started to take off when I announced my very first pregnancy with my daughter Nova, and I documented kind of everything that was going on from the time I found out I was pregnant all the way to the vlog of her labor and delivery. So yeah, y'all have been with me here for a minute. Nova is obviously my oldest. She was born in 2020. And as y'all know what was going on in 2020, I was pregnant during, you know, a really tough time, during shut down everything, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. My husband couldn't come to my appointments. Like, it was just a lot. And so by the time I gave birth to her, luckily he was able to come with me. I didn't have to give birth alone, but we weren't able to have any visitors. Yeah, that whole vlog is here on my channel. You can definitely take a look at that. I also gave birth to my youngest daughter, Aurora, this year in May, and she's just the cutest thing ever. So I have 2 kids, and if you're doing the math, I did have 2 under 2 there for quite a while. I had 2 kids in less than 2 years during one of the hardest times in history, as well as the fact that I lost my mom. So you can see, I think you can hear my mom. Maybe you see her a little bit in my labor and delivery video with Nova, and then by the time Aurora came, she had already passed away. And so the past 2 years have been absolutely insane, dealing with pregnancy and grief and my you know, becoming a new mom and then becoming a second mom and then having my second pregnancy just be a little bit different than my first, and I was dealing with a lot of things that I didn't deal with the first time. It was a lot, y'all. It has been a lot. I returned back to work. I am working a lot, and I still am working from home. We bought our house this year, so much has been going on, but there are some common questions that I get here on this channel. At least once a week, I get a variation of one of these questions. So I just wanted to sit down, sip some stuff, and kind of just talk to y'all and be open and honest. So one of the first questions, one of the most common questions is really around my sickle cell, because that's where the channel started. And so there have been a lot of questions about my experience during pregnancy, labor and delivery with my daughters and how my sickle cell was. So I have sickle cell disease type SC hemoglobin, and I inherited this disease. It's a blood disorder and it's inherited. It's the most common inherited blood disorder here in the US. And so I basically got the disease because my parents were both carriers of the disease. And the way that genetics work, if you're familiar with Punnett squares, I was the one who got like that particular trait from both of my parents that led me to then have the sickle cell disease type SC. I got one S from one of my parents, and I got the C from the other parent. With that said, folks are really curious about how that manifested during my pregnancy, labor and delivery. And the good news that I want to share is that it really didn't become a huge problem. I remember I got a comment on one of my pregnancy updates, and they're like, you're talking about you have sickle cell, but you're not telling us like what's going on with your sickle cell in these updates. And I replied lovingly and graciously to this young lady, but honestly, I can't update you on what's not happening, right? I can only update you on my experience and what's been going on. And so I have had crises in the past. I've had one crisis in my entire life. And during my pregnancies or labor and delivery for both of my girls, I did not experience a sickle cell crisis. And so there was nothing special that I did. Folks are always asking like, how did you avoid that? And what medicines did you take? And you know, I didn't. I mean, I took folic acid like I normally do, and they upped that amount for me during pregnancy both times. And I believe I took a iron pill there for a little bit, and that was it. I didn't have to really do anything for my sickle cell in particular. Here with my second daughter that I gave birth to this year in May, I was dealing with a lot of pain just throughout my body due to the pregnancy and due to the size that she was. She was almost 10 pounds when I gave birth to her. So my body was already in pain because of the issues that I was facing. And I elected to have an epidural both times after many hours of labor because the pain just got too crazy. And I know that when your body is in dis-ease like that, when your body is kind of dealing with pain and shock, it can trigger sickle cell crises. And so I didn't want that to happen, and I did elect to have an epidural both times. With Nova, I had an epidural at hour 20 of labor, and with Aurora, I want to say it was maybe hour 15 or so. The labor was a lot shorter with Aurora, so I waited pretty much as long as I could before I got the epidural, but there wasn't anything sickle cell focused throughout my pregnancy. When I gave birth to Nova though, there were some precautions that were taken. I had to be monitored at all times. I did request a portable monitor so that I can get up and move. I was very much into natural dealing with pain before the epidural. And then I had to wear like these compression things. I think they're called SCDs on my legs that would like really, really squeeze and contract, and then they would let go, and squeeze and contract and then let go. And I had to do that like the whole labor experience and a little bit after I gave birth as well, just to make sure that the blood was flowing and that there were no blood clots and things like that. I did not do that for my second pregnancy, for my second labor and delivery experience. So that was different there. And then after both of them, I was sent home with some blood thinner injections to take for the next, what, like 10 weeks or something like that after giving birth. So that's pretty much what happened with the sickle cell portion of my pregnancies and my deliveries. Another common question I get is about my fibroids. One of my most watched videos on this channel is regarding my fibroids. So I, like many people, did not know or realize that I had fibroids until I was already pregnant. So I get a lot of questions about conception and if it was hard for me to conceive and if we did any fertility treatments. I want to make sure that I am very clear that there are different types of fibroids and there's different locations for those fibroids to be, and they all cause different issues. So not one person's experience with fibroids is going to be the same with someone else, but I do want to say that having fibroids in and of themselves does not mean that someone cannot conceive. It's not a one-to-one ratio. I did not have any fertility help. My husband and I conceived both times with our girls on our own without any treatments or help or medications or anything like that. And I had the fibroids already. So the fibroids did not prevent me from getting pregnant. And they did not cause a whole huge mess of problems when I was pregnant. The one thing though that they wanted to keep an eye on was my sickle cell during pregnancy. So I had a lot more like appointments than your average pregnant person. And then they would also check my fibroids to check the location, make sure, you know, that they are not causing any issues, and they weren't. They were just big and they grew along with my uterus. And so I had what they said was one really big one here on my top left, but it turned out that it was actually two, and they were like clumped together. So it read as like one big one, but it was two fibroids stuck together essentially. You know, that video that I have was like 18-centimeter fibroid, like that's what I was being told. They said it was that big. And then when I had my second daughter, they were looking a little bit deeper and they saw that it was technically two that were about half the size of 18, right? Like 8 or so centimeters each, and they were just kind of sitting on top of each other. And then I had one on the lower right side, and that one really didn't cause any problem. Another question that I have around my fibroids is, how did I get them to shrink, or did I take any herbs or like supplements to make them go away? How did I know that they got smaller? So my fibroids have not gone away. I haven't had surgery to get rid of them, not even after my first pregnancy. And the reason for that is because they weren't causing issues. Typically, doctors won't do much about your fibroids unless they are causing you issues. You're bleeding, you're having, you know, extreme pain. Maybe you're not able to conceive, maybe, and they're attributing that to your fibroids after all the tests that they run for infertility. Maybe you are able to conceive, but the environment inside of your uterus that, you know, where the fibroids are is causing an uninhabitable situation for a viable pregnancy. And so maybe someone is dealing with a lot of loss of pregnancies due to their fibroids. So I did not have any issues, you know, with that. So my fibroids are still here. Even to this day, they're still here. So I don't plan on having surgery because it's kind of one of those things like you just want to leave them alone unless they're actually causing issue. Plus the fact that I have sickle cell, which is a inherited blood disorder. Anytime that I am put under any type of anesthesia or having any type of surgery, there's a lot of risk there, which is one of the reasons why they, you know, were really pushing for me to have vaginal birth, even though that's what I wanted, because like the C-section and the risk of that procedure and that really big surgery is a risk, for me especially, a bigger risk. So yeah, I had both my daughters vaginally and I still have my fibroids. So lots of questions I get about fibroids and conception, fibroids and shrinkage. After I had my babies, I had to kind of go in and ask them to check my fibroids to see if they had gone down. It's not a routine where they care, honestly, but I wanted to make sure that they were going down. I could obviously see that they were going down. They're not causing any pain. I can't like feel them. So I know that they're shrinking back to whatever size they were originally as my uterus shrunk. So that's how I knew. I don't regularly get them checked anymore because I'm no longer pregnant. Another super common question I get is basically around my sickle cell as well as my fibroids of like, okay, when you had Nova, did that not scare you? Like, that didn't scare you to, you know, not have another child basically. Like, did the experience of having fibroids like not scare you? And no, it didn't. I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I always knew once I had Nova that I didn't want her to be an only child. Obviously, I want to do things safely for everyone involved, for my pregnancies, for me, you know, for my family, but it didn't like scare me to the point where I was like, I don't want to have kids again. Because again, as I explained, my fibroids and my sickle cell were not at all much of a huge factor. But the reason why I talk about it is because one, when I was like growing up and looking at YouTube to find people who were talking about their experiences with sickle cell, I didn't see a lot of them, especially those who were pregnant in sickle cell, because they told me that I shouldn't have kids when I was little. But obviously, what, 30 some odd years later, things have changed, and I have two beautiful, amazing, fantastic black queens, you know, that I gave birth to. And they are healthy and I am healthy. So yeah, I mean, I also get questions about like the medications and the supplements. I didn't really take any supplements. I took just a regular prenatal vitamin as well as my folic acid, like I mentioned. Took iron there for a little bit when I was pregnant with Nova, just because it was one of the risk factors for preeclampsia. So we helped kind of mitigate some of that, hopefully, with the use of the iron previously before I, you know, gave birth. And that's about it. I didn't do anything else after that. Another question is, did I breastfeed? The answer is yes, I did. I stopped breastfeeding Aurora though, and I might make a video about that. We are still using breast milk, my breast milk. I am pumping, but I might make a whole video about that and why I decided to make that change, what brought it on, and how the girls are doing. So if you are interested in any of that, please, if you've made it this far, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Hit that subscribe button and stick around for a while. Leave a comment down below. What is your favorite dessert for this time of year? As you can see, it is December. We are a few days away from Christmas. What's your favorite dessert around the holidays? Go ahead and leave it in the comments below. I will see you all in my very next video. Don't forget to check out my podcast, the Fortitude Podcast, as well as my Etsy shop. They are linked down below, and I will see you right back here in another video very soon. So good. And as always, remember to fill your cup. Go ahead, order one of these mugs. Do it. Makes a great gift. All right, bye everyone.